welcome to Tactica Imperialis and to today's video. Today is episode 64 of Adeptus Podcastus. It's going to be a very, very busy one. Joining me as always is Remleiz from 40k Theories.
Hello everyone.
And our special guest this week is a returning guest from, oh goodness me, I can't even remember the episode now. It's been a long time coming.
A little while, yeah.
It has. So, ladies, gentlemen, Xenos of all ages and everything in between, I give you WarGamerGirl.
Hello all, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. So, yeah, as I say, because we recorded last episode a little bit early because somebody needed a holiday,
which I was sick for most of.
Ouch. So yeah, a lot happened because we had the Horus Heresy Weekender, that happened. Then we had the Las Vegas Open, that happened. Then we've had 3 more sets of previews that have come out since then. And we've had another one drop today. We're recording this on the 15th of February. So yeah, we have a lot to cover. Let's just get started.
All right. Well, I believe you guys had sent over some preview information on the Las Vegas Open preview, and then, what was it, the New York Toys convention? Or
yeah, there
Toy
was
Fair.
Yeah, so there was a Toy Fair today. Just quickly, because I've already made Remleiz nearly facepalm once, I just want to quickly bring up the Horus Heresy Weekender because we missed it last time. So, the little not quite wager that Remleiz and I had about Blood Angels, I won because we get confirmation that Ralderon, first captain, will be joining the ranks for 30k. So
it should have been Nasir Amit, and you know it.
Maybe it should have been Nasir Amit, but it's Ralderon, so suck it. Sanguinius got his base and looks suitably amazing now that he's got it. I'm really glad that we get to see him in full. Looks utterly gorgeous. Necromunda is getting another squat and at least 2 new bounty hunters, including Old Man with Shotgun and Voxcaster. We're getting bomb rats for House Cawdor, because of course we are.
About time. They needed their pets.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of other little things coming to Necromunda. Some of it's still in the concept art phase. Like, I swear one of them looks like a Spira. I'll send you the artwork. Because the first thing it made me think of was a Spire, but I don't know my Spires well enough to say if it is or not. So just hang on. There you go.
That looks like the Yeld.
The what?
The Yeld. The Spire suit that's basically has wings, a las rifle, sniper rifle thing, and chameleonic scales.
Okay, so it is a Spira. Got it.
Well, there's no confirmation yet, but it looks very advanced. It kind of has a bit of a Van Sar aesthetic.
But then it's got like these leathery demonic style wings, and I'm like a bit confused.
With like mechanical joints. I reckon that's a new design for the Eld.
Yeah, quite possibly.
is that a grappling hook he has?
I think so. I'm not sure. It could also be just like some kind of weird focusing array for the laser beam or something. I don't know.
It just seems if you have wings, maybe the grappling hook's redundant.
Yeah. Though I do like the design, though.
He's really cool looking.
Yeah, I really encourage you, if you haven't already seen them, to go and look in that article at some of the concept art they've got in there for Necromunda. Like, some of the stuff, there's what looks like a tech priest on a floating disc, and it's like, yeah, okay, I want to see that, please. I just want to mention that stuff briefly, but now we'll move on to something a little bit more recent. The Las Vegas Open Studio. I would nearly call it studio preview. They don't call it a studio preview for some odd reason. And for 40k, the main highlight of that is the Shadow Spear boxed game.
Oh, that's got the new, it's Primaris versus Black Legion, isn't it?
It is. So we're getting the equivalent of a new, well, it basically calls hit the hell I can't button, and made some new Primaris, the Primaris Vanguard, who are effectively scouts, assassins, infiltrators. So we have power armored snipers back, which is cool.
Yeah, I was getting a strong they look like scouts feel from this one.
Yeah, it's interesting because back in 30k, the snipers for the Space Marine Legions were power armored. I think they were called recon squads.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, and now we've got them back again for Primaris because Primaris don't have scouts. So people will sort of say that they're homogenizing 30 and 40k with different types of Marines. I'm not inclined to say so yet.
I mean, even if they were, it would make sense given the fact that, someone's effectively come back from 30k, i.e. Gilliman, so he'd be more used to that, way of warfare, essentially.
True enough. And one thing I really like about these Vanguard Primaris is the armor, because they've actually painted the armor, the heavy metal team have painted the armor ever so slightly darker in terms of the shade of blue than they have for other Ultramarines. So it's almost like they are sneaky, infiltrating people because they've got darker armor. I don't know, it's just a really little touch that I noticed.
It makes you wonder why they didn't just bother painting them as either the Raven Guard or Raptors.
Because it's set on Vigilus, probably.
Even so, the Raven Guard would have been more suitable. And even the Raptors would have been more suitable considering they actually use camouflage.
True, but we are getting also a new Vanguard Librarian who gets stealth powers. And his pose was instantly memed because
he's got this salute thing going on.
I saw hat tipping, I saw ballroom dancing, I saw so many memes of this librarian's pose.
And yet it still looks better than the other Primaris librarian.
Oh, it looks lovely. I really love the model. The sword looks like it came straight out of the Eldari, by the way, at least at that angle.
It's kind of hard to see.
Yeah. But I think the Ultramarines were kind of secondary in this box because, oh my god, the Black Legion Chaos Marines look amazing.
Can we just talk about that new Obliterator?
That's what I mean. Holy hell, yes.
Yeah, I was checking those out last night. Now, there's a lot of themes here coming back from what remind me of when I play Vermintide and End Times, especially on that leader guy, the Master of Possessions. Like, that staff looks straight out of, I guess it would be End Times, right? And Age of Sigmar kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's almost kind of a bit Beastmen-y with it's a Beastmen type skull anyway.
Yeah. Oh, and a ton of fire. I hope you know how to paint fire.
No.
Well, you'll learn because this guy has a lot of fire. It's kind of his thing.
I want to see someone try and alter the fire in a way to incorporate LEDs so it glows or something.
Oh, someone will.
Someone will. That's the amazing thing, and I can't wait to see whoever does it.
True. And, well, as said, there's a new Obliterator kit in there. I mean, Obliterators, with the possible exception of Mutilators, have probably been the worst models in the Chaos range for a long, long time. So...
What makes them so bad? I mean, do they have more hit points than the other Marines?
I'm not talking about gameplay, I mean in terms of aesthetics in this case.
Oh, yeah, they look a little derpier, I suppose.
I mean, it's not as bad as the 3rd edition Obliterators. Those were terrible.
Possibly.
They look like Lego men.
Well, this pose is a little Mega Man too.
True, but at least this one looks suitably flesh metal, grisly, awesome at the same time.
I just realised who it reminds me of, this Obliterator. It looks like Bane.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah,
so,
I see it.
So now we're going to have someone make this model on a base fighting Comrade Curse. We're going to have Batman versus Bane.
Excellent.
Yep. But Chaos also got a new demon engine, the Venom Crawler, which is probably, well, they don't talk about much in terms of gameplay, but it's probably going to be some sort of summoning booster, or some sort of demon booster anyway, and I don't know what to make of this thing. I really don't.
I'm just reminded of that thing from South Park. And gonna go with the big metal spider, Wild Wild West.
Well, it looks like a Black Widow. We actually have those out here. They look not so dissimilar.
If you have Black Widows that look like that, I feel very sorry and scared for you.
Yeah, well, it's a little bit of a Mad Max environment out here, I'm not gonna lie.
Fair enough.
Fair.
So it says that the thing is so saturated in the taint of the warp that the presence thins the veil of reality itself. Is that what you mean as far as a demon booster? Do you think it's like summoning demons?
Yeah, because it then goes on to mention easier access to real space. So my sort of guesstimate is that summoning will be easier to do, so you don't get a +1 to cast a summoning spell within a range of it. Or possibly because the demons are better tied to real space, they'll get a better invulnerable save off of it. I'm not sure which. But given the fact that we've got the Master of Possessions in the box, who says in his little entry that he's got an array of spells that aid demonic allies, I think he's probably going to be sort of your summoner demon booster, and then the Venom Crawler makes his job easier, whilst your Chaos Marines and Obliterators and whatever else is in this box go on an absolute tear.
Fair enough.
Would be my best guess. And this isn't even everything. So they've there's a trailer come out today where they showed off what in sort of one of the art pieces. I couldn't quite tell what it was, but it looked like a Space Marine with a really, 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 really big gun. A really long gun, much bigger than the sniper rifles, and he wasn't quite armoured the same.
It reminded me of the Havoc's autocannon.
Possibly, and we do have going on at the moment the Demon Rumour engine, which has pretty much shown off a new Chaos Heavy Bolter.
Yeah.
Which may indicate that Havocs are going to get either options or maybe even a kit one day, or maybe they'll be part of Shadow Spear, we don't know. So that should be intriguing.
Nice.
Staying with 40k, we get confirmation that there will be a series of articles in the run-up to the Sororitas release, though we still don't know when they're coming out. And we got to see one new model while we were at it. What's the term for the sister with big...
The simulacrum.
With the reliquary.
Imperialis, isn't it? The simulacrum. Am I right here?
Sounds right. Sounds right.
Does that sound good?
I'm not an expert on sisters, but it sounds right.
Basically, a sister of Battle with Holy Icon, which has got several skulls and a few saint statues inside. Kind of like a standard bearer, essentially.
Yeah, it really reminds me of the Lord Relictor for the Stormcast, although that one gets a full skeleton in his banner, so I know which one's cool.
Is it Reclusiarch?
Reclusiarch's the chief chaplain of the Black Templars.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Reliquary is the sort of thing you keep them in, but...
Regardless, it looks cool.
No, it looks awesome, and there's 5 skulls in there, so clearly there's more power there than just one single skeleton. Okay.
Yeah, and one of them's got an Inquisitorial Eye on it, one's got the Fleur de Lis on it.
And they've all got rope tying through their eye sockets, except one's got through his nose instead.
Yeah.
Because reasons.
I'm enjoying the fact that they're not updating or changing the armor a whole lot, like that they're going to stick with the Baroque armor that the sisters, hopefully the sisters always had. So I am happy that they're not hyper-modernizing that or making it totally different.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just because it's such an iconic part of the sisters' design at this point. You know, if they made any changes, there'd be, outcry.
I mean, look at Severina Rain to see what happens if you don't do it.
Oh, yeah?
Which was very annoying. I'll be honest, I've never bought the hype for sisters. Like, they look great, but I'm probably never going to invest in them. They're just not for me, I don't think.
Well, and that's just a playstyle choice, which is completely fine. But aesthetically, they do kind of capture your imagination. They have that heavy metal, as I term it, metal AF look from the 80s. And it ages well for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it has... the old models, I think if they were resculpted, and you kept the same poses, the same design, and just resculpted them in plastic to get a bit more detail on them, the old models would still look fine. So I think that just as long as they keep that aesthetic, you're right, it has kind of worked.
Most certainly. Now, is this the only plastic Sororitas model we've really seen? I know there was that one a while back of, it was the cover art of one of the old books.
Yeah, I think this is the second one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this is number 2.
Well, apart from the weapons that they previewed, like the heavy bolters and stuff.
Oh, yeah, I remember those. Because they had didn't they have like a really old school flamer or melter gun? Or am I misremembering? I
think they had like an old school sculpt on the flamer.
Yeah, something tells me that it was a really old school style of flamer, but I'm not sure. And the last thing for 40k to come out of LVO was well, not a full reveal, just a little spoiler. Abaddon's back.
Oh, you mean the new Primaris Lieutenant?
You mean the Primaris Lieutenant base decoration for Abaddon that is spoiler.
Of course.
Yeah, that thing confused me. It looked way too weird.
Go on.
So I don't get the joke. It's like, oh, the Primaris Lieutenant. I'm like, this doesn't look like Primaris. There's a screaming sword. What's happening?
I think it's sort of a running joke that whenever there's a new box game that comes out for 40k, it's like, Tooth and Claw, get a new special lieutenant. Not Forge Bane. Wait the Dead, new Primaris Lieutenant. Every single time there was a new box, there was a new Primaris Lieutenant of some sort.
I see.
So it just became sort of a running joke.
Store Celebration, new Primaris Lieutenant. Warhammer 40,000 Conquest Magazine subscription, new exclusive Lieutenant.
Oh.
Yeah, that was I think the joke. And this one they turned into base decoration.
How meta. All right.
So how many... So what are your bets on that for April 1st they'll do Codex Primaris Lieutenants?
Somehow I almost hope that they are listening to this and actually do that now. just so in 2 months you can go on the episode and like, yes, I was right.
It's not going to happen though, but it would be nice.
No.
Now, does that cover all... Well, it doesn't cover everything 40k in general, right? It just covers everything that was covered at LVO?
Yep. Pretty
not
much.
Strictly. Because Age of Sigmar's getting a new battle tome, which is the Blades of Khorne, which is following on from Skaven and Flesh Eater Courts, and that's getting new models, including Skulltaker.
Oh, Blades of Khorne. Yeah, these guys looked crazy. I love those. I guess are they spell manifestations?
They're not technically spells because Khorne doesn't do magic. So we're not quite sure how they're going to work yet, in terms of mechanics at least.
They look amazing. I love that idea that you can summon something like that. And I don't know what its effects are, but just seeing that on the tabletop looks amazing.
I mean, it's quite common in Age of Sigmar. Every single new factions that's come out since the new edition about 9 months ago has got a set of endless spells. So the Skaven have got a ginormous bell, and have also got a giant tide of rats and another one. The Flesh Eater Courts, which are the old crypt ghouls, if you remember those, and zombie dragons. They've got some endless spells that include a giant wall of corpses, and a sort of charge of the like a undead cavalry spell that runs around and tramples everything. The Stormcast Eternals have a whirlwind of hammers and a ginormous meteor that can just smash into the board.
Oh my goodness. Sounds like I should give this game a shot, maybe, at some point.
If you've got the time, absolutely. And if you have demons, well, they pull double duty because all of the armies have got, representation. Not all of them have endless spells yet. In fact, only Khorne will have them for demons. But because Slanesh, Nurgle, and Tzeentch haven't been done for the new edition yet. But I think Sigmar's in one of the healthiest places it's ever been. And I do suggest that if you've got the time and the money, give it a go. But the point I was making is Skulltaker.
Yes, Skulltaker.
But since you mentioned rats, does that mean we can jump into the Necromunda stuff? Because then they got the bomb rats.
I mean... Yeah, I mentioned this very briefly earlier with the Heresy Weekender, but yeah, go for it.
Yes, if my computer finishes unfreezing, thank you very bloody much. So, some new Necromunda stuff's been revealed, including some new mercenaries, such as Bertram Artuos III, who looks awesome. I love his big powdered wig. And he was also the star of the audio drama Expectatio, if you're interested in that. We've also got some new bounty hunters, including the Deserter, who had an audio drama over the Christmas period. So, awesome. Another squat. I think that's the best news here. Another bloody squat.
An ammo jack.
Because more ammo for your gangs. What's not to love, especially if you've already got, Grendel.
Yeah.
And they seem to be teasing a brand new Spire Hunter. The Yeld specifically, who has the big wings, and what looks to be either a grappling hook or a redesign of his las rifle. Yeah, and he looks awesome.
Yeah, that's the one I mentioned earlier. There's also Tech Priest on floating candle disc, which Harlequin's.
Are you sure he's actually a Tech Priest and not an ecclesiarch or something like that, like an ecclesiarchy priest who just has a breathing apparatus.
Actually,
because he is reading a holy book. It looks like,
true,
and he's got scripture.
True.
I mean, I'll tell you what it could be. It could be part of the cult of redemption.
You mean the ones who've got cords in their back pocket?
Yeah, because they are known for wearing red robes and wearing masks.
Huh.
I think that is actually cult of redemption.
Nice. There's also the not Harlequin sniper.
Oh, and the swordsman as well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Have there ever been Harlequins on Necromunda?
There have been rangers on Necromunda. Not too sure about Harlequins. And that being said, though, in the rulebook, they did say that they had Eldari and Squat ambassadors try to warn a planetary governor about the 13th Black Crusade.
Fair. And what about Bo Raicho Impressionist in the bottom left?
Bo Raicho.
That's the first thing that came to my head when I saw him. That's all I can think
he
of.
Looks enough. Just because he's fat.
I was more going for the coat design and the sort of hairstyle, and then the fact he was fat. But yes.
Uh-huh. I think he just looks like he could be a bounty hunter. Or I tell you what he could be. He could be a slave master.
Is that why he's holding the manacles there?
Yeah, and he's got all round. He's got the whip and stuff as well. Yeah, I think he's a slaver.
Oh, jeez.
Good shout.
Because slavery does exist on Necromunda, after all. So
this is the Imperium. Slavery exists everywhere.
Yes, but in Necromunda, you get turned into a pit slave, which is basically you've been turned into a servitor, yet you're not a servitor. You're still conscious.
These Harlequins really are cool. Do they always run around in heels? Is that just the uniform?
I'm not sure. I'm not even sure if these are actually Harlequins. I think they're just impersonators or just jesters or something.
Yeah, because there's no Harlequin in the base game that comes with a rifle, with the exception of the Death Jester, who looks absolutely nothing like that.
Well, isn't the Death Jester more of a, a full-on machine gun, essentially?
But it's the only rifle that there is what I was more getting at. And yeah, it's not a sniper rifle,
right,
but it's the only actual rifle of any sort in Harlequins that I can think of.
I do like the Jester's design, though. They look awesome.
They look really cool.
Indeed. The other...
Assassins for Hire, maybe.
Yeah, and there's also, going back to that weekender, there was a new Titanicus expansion, including new terrain. Yay, more terrain.
Ooh.
So
can't have enough.
Yep, so we're going to get a Molech expansion that's also going to give us new weapons like Quake Cannons, Warp Missiles. So, yes, you can give your Reaver Titan a Warp Missile if you want.
This is the Doom of Molech, isn't it?
It is.
Huh.
Makes me wonder, since you're going to have the Doom of Molech, will there be a model for Demon Prince Fulgrim? Because he was involved in that.
Would he be big enough to fit on a Titanicus board?
He'd be knight-sized, probably. I mean, it didn't stop him from using him in Epic, did it?
True, but they don't... he would be the first one introduced if they did that.
I mean, it'd be cool if they did. It'd be like,
cool.
a good throwback. It'd be a throwback to the older games, wouldn't it? So,
but I think they'd want to probably put real Demon Fulgrim into main game 40k before they did that, just to stop them spoiling the design too much.
I guess.
It would be cool, though. I do agree.
Yeah, obviously. No. Are you guys excited about the new Black Library stuff?
Oh, yes.
Which ones are those? Because there's been so much, I think something's probably gotten past me.
How about the limited edition of Angron, for starters, or, Buried Dagger?
The Buried Dagger, that's a new one?
It is. It's the last of the Heresy books.
Really?
Before we get to Siege of Terror, yeah. Yep.
Oh.
And
the first Siege of Terror book comes out in May.
So how many books does that make it for Horus Heresy?
Is it 54?
54, yeah. Buried Dagger is book 54. This is not taking into account the novellas.
All the audio dramas.
And then you got 8
goodness.
books for the Siege of Terror, so in total it'll be about 62 books.
Lovely. I'm loving the artwork in here. I guess those are pages from the book. They have the Soul System. That map is incredible.
That's going to be from Siege of Terror itself, I think, because that map of Sol is going to evolve as the series goes on. So what you're seeing in that artwork is Sol before Horus arrives, And I think maybe not in every book, but by the end of the series, you'll see what Sol looked like by the time Horus fell. So obviously, Pluto will have been attacked. Titan will have probably reappeared again because it'll be gone by then. And so on and so forth, just to see exactly what happened in Sol. Because I think the Solar War is probably the least explored thing left in the Heresy, obviously, because it's the last thing that happened. They haven't got there yet.
Even though we know certain things of what happens immediately after, thanks to some of the books that have already come out in the series. Which is kind of weird.
I was going to say, they're going to have to make sure they reconcile all that.
I mean, I have learnt of a potential spoiler from the exclusive anthology that was released at the Weekender, The Scions of the Emperor.
Oh yeah, I saw
something in regards. Yes, something in regards to the two lost Primarchs. Apparently, it wasn't Lehman Russ's fault. Apparently, it was all Dawn's fault.
Right.
Well, Dawn and Gilliman, according to Malcador.
Huh.
Well then. Now
I'll leave it at that for now.
That's fair. Have you actually had a chance to read it, or is that you getting that second hand?
My copy's on its way, because I've ordered it off eBay. Glorious thing that is. But this is what Oculus Imperia actually posted in the TTS work chat.
Ah, fair enough.
Also, hi Oculus Imperia.
Yeah. Oculus also was the one who drew my attention to today's set of releases. That being, what's it called now? The New York Toy Fair, because he squeed about a Rogue Trader's servo skull reloading her pistol for her.
That was adorable.
Yeah, so let's get to that. So that is part of what is called Combat Arena, a prequel game to Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress, which pits up to 4 players with 5 miniatures that we've seen against one another in a little hex-based arena grid combat game.
Yeah, it does seem very, very small. I guess it's designed to be played on, a kitchen table kind of thing?
I mean, they say it takes 30 to 45 minutes to play, so it's designed around that.
Nice.
We get a new look Crusader, which obviously has not been done. Oh, actually, that's an old Inquisition Codex model, I think. How old is the Crusader model?
Wasn't it from... Was it Witch Hunters or Demon Hunters?
It was in Witch Hunters, I think, because... no, it was an Inquisitorial Bodyguard. It was in the Grey Knights Codex. So it's probably a Demon Hunters thing, though I couldn't be sure. Also, the armor looks so Grey Knighty, it's not even funny.
Well, yeah, it's Inquisition-sanctioned power armor. Of course it'll look like a Grey Knight's.
No, it's all obviously silver. You've got the red tabard, the gold trim for days. The helmet looks very old school.
The helmet looks like a bucket.
Hence what I mean by old school.
It's got one eye he can see through there, Remleiz.
Quite. And we also get his name, I think, if I can just read sideways for a second. He is...
Derek.
Godfrey of Montbard, I think? I'm reading sideways, so I'm not 100% sure I got that right.
Oh yeah, I see what you're looking at.
We get a new tech priest called Daedalosus, who is probably generic tech priest number 1. I don't know what's in his left hand, but that's quite... As tech priests go, it's quite generic. Except the weapons look wonky as all hell.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as good as, the Dr. Robotnik one that got revealed the other time. Now, is that a servitor?
Yeah, this is what's got me confused. This yellow dude, which is called X101. It looks like a combat servitor, but then it's on, legs and doesn't come with any fixie bits and has this, what looks like a graviton gun. I think it's graviton.
And clamps. He's got clamps.
He's got to give him the clamps, boss.
Exactly. Yeah, X101, I don't know. I guess he just works for the tech priest. Is he like a minion? They partner?
I mean, you can't. It doesn't imply you can use them together in the game, so it's a separate fighter.
Oh, I see. It's all 1v1 kind of deal. Or free for all.
Yeah, it seems that way. Oh, we get a new Primaris Psyker, which is long overdue, because, my god, the old Primaris Psyker is old.
And people are complaining that it looks like a Gene Stealer Magus.
I mean, the collar kind of does. It is very similar.
And the hood.
Yeah, the collar, hood design, and the bald head. It does call back to that Gene Stealer Cults Magus, but pose is different, staff's different, it's unique enough.
I mean, in fairness, you could use this to, as a basis for some Gene Stealer Cult conversion work. Just swap out the head.
Yeah, and I could see... actually, if I change the staff, that would make an amazing light wizard. Because they've got, with their Luminarch of Heish, they quite like the sort of like arcane balls of magic type thing that seems to be integrated into the collar. So with a bit of conversion work, you can make a really cool light wizard out of that.
Just get rid of the piping.
Yeah, kind of. And then, of course, the rogue trader, Naam Shaimurad, I think is how it's pronounced. I'm not quite sure.
With her peg leg. She looks awesome.
With a peg leg.
Yeah, she's the coolest in this box.
It's like Symmetra crossed with Junkrat. Just in terms of like the face and the peg leg. Sorry, that's just the first just hit me just then. But yeah, she's got...
I'm getting a proper pirate feel off her.
I mean, it's a rogue trader, so you should.
Yeah, but even more so than, the one from the Rogue Trader Kill Team box, so that just looked like she had a cake on her face.
Or the one from Blackstone Fortress who just looked like an aristocrat.
Yeah. But we've got a proper pirate here.
Yeah. And she seems to be missing one of her Sovo skulls, because the one above her left shoulder seems to not have something on the end of it when it should have.
Are you sure that's not just the tail from the first one behind it just curling round?
I sort of assumed that they were integrated into her back, so that they were coming out of her back like mechadendrites, but you might be right.
I think they'd just be more floating alongside her.
In which case, that's a very clever piece of design then to integrate that into the back without making it look it's coming out of the back. So yeah, clever design, I will say.
And yes, it is adorable that the Servo Skull is reloading her pistol.
It is kind of it's a cute moment.
I'm helping.
Their sole job in life. You get to see them work.
Yes. And we've also got the Funko Pops as well, which everyone's extremely excited for, I am sure.
I don't know why. Why does everybody like Funko Pops? Why?
I have no idea.
It's quite funny. They do make a bit of a joke about that. Hey, you got to see the models in the flesh, figuratively speaking, then in asterisks. Whilst it would be appropriately grimdark to make them out of flesh, it turned out to be somewhat impractical in the planning stages. Like, oh, GW, you're so self-aware. Stop it.
Their Blood Angel's kind of cute. Little beaky helmet, but...
Yeah, I quite like... Of them, I do like the Blood Angel, but not for me.
Speaking of Blood Angels, just quickly going back to the Horus Heresy weekend, can we talk about the memery that is the Blood Angels Jump Pack Dreadnought?
I sent you this just before we went on the air and you nearly lost your shit.
We're back in 5th edition. We're back into the Jump Pack Land Raiders and shit.
That was Deep Striking Land Raiders.
Oh, whatever. You know what I mean. We're back to the shit.
Are you saying you find this unrealistic?
I find it absurd.
It's kind of their thing too, isn't it?
Pretty much, but even by 40k standards, I find it absurd.
But yes.
Have there been new Orc releases? There were some recent new big mechs of the Orcs, weren't there, to come out?
The Orcs got a Codex and a bunch of vehicles about 3 months ago. Yeah, about 3 months ago.
Okay, yeah. And I remember the Codex coming out. I have it in my house somewhere.
Yeah, I've got the Codex, and I've got the Trike, and I've got the one that looks like a plane as well on my station to build eventually when I ever get around to it.
Their flyers are hilarious.
Never had one. Always wanted one. I've kept my boss Zagstruck's metal head spare to put into a Dakar jet, but I never bought a Dakar jet. Oops.
Well, now you know what to get now.
Yeah, but then, I don't play my Orcs anywhere near enough to do it. It's not worth it.
That's no excuse.
Yes, it is. I'm on a tight budget and time budget.
So what's all this about this Storm Vault? Since we're looking at the New York Toy Fair.
Yeah.
Storm Vault?
It's Age of Sigmar, kind of as near. Well, it's not D&D, but it's the nearest I think that Warhammer's gone to D&D in a damn long time.
Okay, because I was getting what is it, Runebound? Have you ever played that book?
I'll be honest, I don't really do board games, but like it looks much more like a role-playing dungeon crawlery co-op random event shuffle. Maybe it's like nearer to Warhammer Quest than D&D, I suppose.
Well, and it's all supposed to be cooperative, which you normally are, trying to murder each other. I don't know that they have much in the way of like cooperative games in either Fantasy, Age of Sigmar, or 40k, do they?
I mean, you can play the Warhammer Quest as co-op, Blackstone Fortress and Silver Tower, by having players control certain heroes and then maybe have one person control the enemies. It's like the Dungeon Master. But a purely co-op game, I think, is new. As far as I can tell, it looks like it's going to be Stormcast versus Chaos. So you've got a couple of Vanguard models, a couple of Evocators. So, well, that sets the tone. And you can actually see a few of the models at the back of the little picture there. I'm really not sure what to make of it. I want to play it, but I don't know if I'll get ever around to buying it, because you're supposed to be able to play it in 45 minutes. But just getting the time to buy it, I guess.
Well, yeah, and there's still going to be miniatures to paint, because even on board games, you don't necessarily want to run around with solid blue pieces.
Agreed. And while we're talking about board games in Age of Sigmar, Warhammer Underworlds is getting effectively like a beginner's box called Dreadfane. So 2 new warbands for that. New Stormcast and Nighthawk one, because of course it is. So Sequitors, and I think they're Mirmorn Banshees, so the easy to build kits from a while ago. And it will be a faster version of Underworlds, because at the minute, Underworlds is probably the most competitive game GW has in terms of game balance. So I think this is a good way of introducing people to it instead of just chucking them into this deck building mess that I suspect Night Vault might have become.
Oh. Well, in this one, Dreadfane, they said they're offering exclusive warbands just for this. So
for now, at least, yeah. So you'll get Iron Soul's Condemners and Harrow's Mournflight, and once you've mastered the basic game, you can take that into the main game, and they'll get proper decks and cards that I suspect will be integrated there. Because to be fair, generally when they do Night Vault and Underworld boxes, the starter armies don't exist outside of the box games. It's the one thing I don't like about Underworlds, is you can't buy the boards or the rule books without buying the starter box, and that means buying a bunch of models. Nor can you buy the starter models without buying the starter box, which it means that if you've already got a game and a set of boards and all that stuff, you have to basically buy the game again to get your models. But that's just a small detail, and I don't think Underworld is the only game that does that.
Surely you're not implying that GW does this stuff on purpose.
I just find it annoying that you have to buy 2 war bands just to buy the rulebook. It's the same problem that Blood Bowl's got, I think.
I thought that was just how they did all of their board game release stuff. I mean, Forgebane, you couldn't get the armatures for a long time without buying that whole box set. Those were the only 2 new models from it.
There was the new Cryptek as well, I think. But yeah, it does a brand new. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you have a point. But I think, yeah, you are right. It's just a thing that GW does, and I should stop complaining.
I mean, or whatever. And then Space Marine Heroes? Season 2, Season 3? What is this?
Oh, Space Marine Heroes are the Japanese exclusive Space Marine models, which are like all unique sculpts, all highly posed. The Season 1 Ultramarine, some of them got a re-release in that, what was it? That board game where they were going into a Necron Tomb World, like 5 of them got released in that.
I do not remember that.
Yep. And then, what was it? Season 2, it was the Blood Angels Terminators.
Yeah, and they're coming to Western audiences now. I think you sort of buy them out of loot boxes, that you just buy a box and hope you get the one you want.
Yeah, it's like a lucky dip kind of thing, yeah.
Oh, I hate that. But
Season 3, what's that gonna be? Probably Primaris. Primaris Lieutenants, there you go.
Quite possibly.
Funnily enough, there is actually a Japanese exclusive novel from the Space Marine Heroes series because I've seen it for sale on the Japanese Amazon store, but I can't read Japanese, so it'd be like a bit pointless me getting it, but I do kind of want to see what's installed. Entails, rather.
Yeah, fair. In terms of other news, so the Amble is on its way out and is getting rules for 40k, the base game as well.
Nice.
So we don't know how much it's going to cost yet, and it's not obviously assigned to any faction, but it's strength up to 6, 7 wounds, 3 up save. It's got the ability to tunnel. It heals D3 wounds a battle round. It's got AP 3 damage D3 with 4 attacks. It's not too bad. And then it's got these boarworm infestations that rock around with it. They're nothing to write home about, aside from the fact that they have some slight amount of AP if you roll a 6 to wound.
Fair enough.
Right.
Yeah, we'll see people use it. It's probably just going to be like narrative missions. They give a bunch of examples. So a Drukhari arena battle, blood trial for Space Marines, a Slime Arbo versus Amble hunt, so on and so forth. Lots of fun stuff there. And I think the other thing that's coming between this episode and the next that we can't talk about it here because we don't know anything is the Black Library celebration that's happening the weekend coming, the 23rd of Feb.
Yep. But pretty much everything comes out at once, essentially.
Yeah, Severina Rain, Buried Dagger, Angron, the Celestine audio drama. I don't know how much they've got left to spoil for that event, I'll be honest.
Well, Guy Haley said on Twitter that he's just been finishing off signing a bunch of special editions, but he's not allowed to say what it is or when it's coming out, so it could be something new coming out for that time period as well.
True.
I mean, considering that the Blackstone Fortress novel literally came out of nowhere.
A lot to hit the fans with. I mean, do people just buy everything that comes out all at once like that? Or are they just separating it out because these fans will want the Celestine drama and these fans will want this other one?
I buy it all at once.
Well, you have a job to do.
Well, yeah. Speaking of which, I need to read that Celestine novel at some point. Haven't had a chance to read it yet. Though I did manage to read The Bloodied Rose, that Sisters of Battle novella, but I'll get into that later.
Fair enough. The other thing I think of really news-wise is the fact that Genestealer cards came out. So they are now available. I think they've got all their models out by now. And there's a lore development that's gone into there that I wanted to bring up just before we dive just out of news.
Yeah, that pissed me off because I recorded my video on the similar such subject before the Codex came out. Thank you, G bloody W.
So, yes, back when the Tyranid Codex came out, there was a discussion of a hive fleet called Tiamat. You probably know more about them than I do, so go for it. So,
basically, Tiamat are rather unique that they've basically taken over one particular system, they've not stripped it of all life, they've kept the biospheres intact, and on the world of Xyophoria, there is basically a huge fleshy structure that spans an entire continent. If you watch my video on Hive Fleet Tiamat that came out this week at time of recording, well, at time of recording it's actually next week, but fuck it. If you watch my video that came out on the 18th, there you go, you'll know more about it. But essentially, the Genestealer Cult Codex has added, which I didn't know about at the time of recording because I recorded that video before I went on my holiday. Apparently, Genestealer cultists are actively migrating to Xyophoria, touching the structure, and then buggering off again to spread the word of Tiamat.
Yes, basically. So, back in the Tyranid Codex, there was the idea that it had caused an uprising on a Chaos world that had led to a massive pilgrimage toward Tiamat. And the assumption at the time was, they're just going to get nommed by it. That didn't happen. They got there, and touched down on the ground, touched the earth, and then immediately were enraptured, brought into thrall, and naffed off as missionaries. And at the minute, Inquisitor Cryptman and some of the Death Watch nearby are coming up with crazy theories, and collectively terrifying ones, even if they're kind of being ignored, and theories abound about what the flip is going on.
There's only one way to stop this. We must capture Caldor Drago and set him loose immediately. Shut up, Critman. Sorry. I had to do the Critman voice. It was terrible. I apologize.
Been listening to too many audio dramas. My bad.
Actually, I was just going by Eliphos's Behemoth impression, but it's like the default Critman voice in my mind now. But yeah.
But yeah, so the people that are speculating about what exactly is going on with Tiamat, some people are speculating Shadow in the Warp's
or you could watch my
thing.
video on about it. It has some theories. Just watch that, Michael.
But is there anything new that comes from it as a result of this development that's worth mentioning?
This just throws a new spanner into the works. That we got bloody missionaries visiting us. I don't have a fucking clue anymore. It does seem to help reinforce the potential the beacon arguments and the fact that, hey, we're gonna start, migrating to other planets to set up shop there and now act as a beacon / truck stop. I don't fucking know. It's just like it's too early in the day.
Isn't it like the evening there?
I know.
It's 7 at night.
I know, it's too early in the day. Besides,
Sure.
I'm still sick.
So what else have you been reading? You mentioned this novella earlier.
Well, firstly, this one I forgot to mention last time after I finished reading Of Honor and Iron about the ending, because you might find this interesting. So basically, at the end of the novel, Gilliman's basically doing this monologue to himself, essentially, basically saying
That's what monologues are.
Well, basically, debating, is it right to, virus bomb a world to deny it to the enemy and kind of things like that. But then we find out he's not just talking to himself, he's actually talking to someone, quote unquote, because he picks up a skull, he's tenderly caressing it, and it turns out it's Marius Gage.
The skull?
Yeah, the skull of Marius Gage. As in, Gilliman's favourite Ultramarine from the Horus Heresy.
And he's just like...
The one who went missing with his flagship after the Battle of Caltham was never heard from again, and then the ship suddenly appeared 10,000 years later out of nowhere.
With Gage dead, yes.
Yeah. That plot point still bugs me to this day. Like, the ship naffed off, then it came back, then it sort of disappeared again, but then it was back again. It actively bugs me, the Macrax honor. But anyway. Huh.
Yeah, so I read The Bloodied Rose, which is, the Sisters of Battle novella. And firstly, can I just say, one, it's very refreshing to have Sisters of Battle versus Chaos where they're not fighting Slanesh for once. Thank fuck.
Was it Khorne?
Fighting Khorne. Yeah, it's Khorne, yeah. What do you expect? The Bloodied Rose.
I mean, isn't there there's an order called the Bloodied Rose, isn't there?
Yeah, that's what it's about. The Order of the Bloody Rose.
Yeah, fair enough.
They're the main characters. So, here's an interesting thing. Not only is there, a Khornate cult in the book, but the members of this Khornate cult are both humans and orcs in the same cult.
Huh.
Excuse me?
They found something to bring them together.
Exactly, yeah. A human and orc chaos cult.
No, I heard you, but excuse me?
Well, what do you expect? It's orcs. They like, violence. They'd be like, ooh, but violence, yes please.
So who's in charge of the cult?
The former second-in-command to the High Priestess of the World. Because it was a feral world that had been brought into the light of the Imperium by the Order of the Bloody Rose, and the founder of the Order of the Bloody Rose actually came from this world, and apparently, according to this Bloodthirster, apparently the Order has a deep-rooted history with Khorne.
Huh.
Like, they can trace their heritage back to Khorne worship, apparently.
Right. They'll keep that one under wraps.
But obviously, the Sister of Battle were like, no, that's not true, you're lying, we are pure, blah, blah, blah. As you do. Though I was very disappointed with one thing, because they were teasing this one revelation, like, oh, we got, these, 5 dead Sister of Battle, where's the 6th one? And you hear this demonic voice, and, I was expecting, is this going to be, a Khorne Sister of Battle Demon Prince type thing? It's like, no, it's just a Bloodthirster. It's like, for fuck's sake, you copped out the last minute.
Boo.
Because they were building up to this, Chaos Sister of Battle Worshipper of Khorne thing, and they just crabbed out a Bloodthirster.
Yeah.
So
it's actually a pretty good little novella. The
Sisters
Sisters of Battle are shown to be quite badass, and like literally this one scene, there's like they're being attacked by a huge pack of fleshhounds, and the Sister Superior literally just picks up one by the collar, slams its head into a pillar, then stomps on its face. And it's like, that's pretty badass.
That was really
Though
cool.
the one thing that bugs me is that the Sister with a heavy bolter was described as constantly adding clips to her heavy bolter. I was like, hang on, did they just use an ammo belt?
Hello?
Ram?
There we go.
Oh, where did I cut out?
I got Codsley, and then you died.
Constantly.
Oh, something about heavy bolter, and then you cut.
Oh, yeah. Yes, the heavy bolter is being told... the Sister using the heavy bolter is constantly reloading her bolter with a clip. And it's like, don't they just use ammo belts for heavy bolters for the Sisters?
Possibly. I think...
That's the only thing that really bothered me about that story, to be honest.
Yeah, my minor gripe is the fact that no orc would answer to a human, ever, because they aren't green.
And small.
Also that.
Well, in fairness, it's that story, Enemy of My Enemy, which had, the orc commando group allying with the humans, and the orc in charge was not the biggest one. He was actually one of the smaller ones, but he was in charge of being the most ruthless.
So it was a blood axe.
Yeah.
Okay, if it's a blood axe, I excuse it. But like, if it was any other orc clan, they would never answer to anyone who wasn't green. Generally, because blood axes are more mercenary anyway, so it's kind of...
It's kind of hitting it on the head, though. The bloody rose, the blood axe, blood god.
Yeah. Do you get it? Do you get it?
Oh, I see, because blood for the blood god. I get it.
Maybe we should call the blood angels and the blood drinkers for help. I
mean, to be honest, like basically they've turned the bloody rose into the Astartes blood angels almost. It's just like the other way around. It's like,
to be honest, I'm just happy that a Sisters of Battle, convent that wasn't our martyred lady got some fucking spotlight for once. Because it's always the Order of our martyred lady.
Oh, I agree. Absolutely. It's just interesting that, like, Khorne is constantly trying to corrupt the Blood Angels, and you see that with Kabanda on Baal and all that stuff. And then you've got these sisters who are kind of like the opposite. They started with Khorne, but they ain't about that now.
Yeah. Oh, and speaking of Khorne, I also finally got around to reading A Rose Watered with Blood.
Which one's that?
Which is where... the one set on a conqueror, focused on Lotara Sarin.
Oh,
we have more stories about her. Yay. Basically, the ship's become so corrupted that none of the other World Eater's ships in the fleet want to be anywhere near it. Because they're like, no, this is fucked up. And about half of the World Eaters on board the Conqueror want to get off the ship because they're like, nah, this is all fucked. We don't want to be part of this. So they basically attempt to stage a mutiny. Lotara, as part of the mutiny, quote unquote. So when they're getting on the shuttle, oh, hi, Karn. Karn comes along and pretty much kills them all, and the ones who escape, Lotara just goes, open fire, boom. But we have one thing that we've learned. The Conqueror is trying to please Lotara.
Why is that?
Because Lotara is so aggressive and so brutal that the Conqueror's like, I like her.
So is this still the Conqueror's machine spirit? Is this now part demon? What's the situation?
It seems to be implied. It seems to be implied to be part demon, considering that Lotara woke up to find the corpse of her long dead friend in her bed.
Oh.
It's like, where the hell did that come from? And it's like, oh, the Conqueror's trying to please her.
Yeah, have
it's
your
like a cat
corpse.
that gives you.
So I know you liked him. Here you go. He's now can warm your bed, even though he's bleeding. and been dead for weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Right.
Chaos is a hell of a drug.
Yeah. Yeah, let's just go with that because that's quite creepy. Though to be fair, I can't speak for every single one, but I know that like the vengeful spirit is probably not a good place to want to live and work on. Like generally, like all the Chaos flagships sort of went to hell.
I mean, just wait until you get on board the Terminus Est. It's literally full of shit.
That wasn't Mortarian's flagship, but yes, fair point.
Oh no, but even so. Well, Mortarians will be full of shit once they reach Terra.
Oh, what was Mortarian's flagship called? I wrote this down a long time ago.
The Endurance, wasn't it?
Yes, I think it was. Where is it?
I'm pretty sure it's the
I did a bloody lore
Endurance.
video on the flagships of the Primarchs. I should remember this.
Because the invincible reason was Dark
Endurance, yeah, it
Angels.
sort of switched. Yeah, the Endurance has part of the Garden of Nurgle on it. That was the special feature.
There we go, yeah.
Yeah, apologies.
So, next week, I will be reading the Celestine novel and let you know how that turns out.
Excellent.
Even though I am very disappointed with how bloody small it is.
Yeah, you mentioned this last time.
175 pages.
Oh, wow.
It's tiny.
Not a whole lot. Normally they're what, 400-page books, aren't they?
Between 250 to 400, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, with this book being this thin, you expect it to be more on, like Saint Anay or something.
Well, it should be a fast read at least.
That's true.
Oh, I just realised this. Remember the Buried Dagger?
Yes.
They published the Dramatis Personae,
Ooh.
and they named
Link.
all of the Knights-Errant in it.
Link?
It's not their real names. Don't worry.
No, I know, but just link me the damn thing so we can have a reference so we can talk about it.
Yeah. All right. Chill your beans.
I'm going to guess that Epimetheus is there.
Epithemius is how it's actually. We've all been saying it wrong this whole time. It's Epithemius according to this.
Either that or someone here fucked up the spelling.
Yeah. So the 9 who are named are Koios, Satra, Ianius or Janus, Jotun, Yapto or Japto as it might be, Ogun, Chiron, Epithemius, and Crius or Crius as it probably is.
Isn't that a type of electric car?
That's Prius, you Egypt.
So who are the Knights-Errant? So we've got Garrow, Rubio, Eson, Loken, Varen, and Gala.
2 of which are librarians.
Apart from Garrow.
I said 2 of.
Oh, so if we said all of which, my bad.
Yeah, so Rubio and Ison are named in the Knights-Errant column. Is that... Now, there's a question there. Is that a way of throwing us off them becoming Grey Knights, or does that say that they're not going to become Grey Knights?
I'm going to assume it's throwing us off the scent.
Definitely with Rubio. I don't recognise the name Vardas Ison. I don't recognise him. I'll be completely honest with you.
Unless they turn around and basically say, like, oh, these are the Knights-Errant, and the 9 who are named, we're going to have, Kaios is, the Raven Guard Chief Librarian. Sata is the other Raven Guard Librarian, because they had, 3 Raven Guard Librarians for some reason.
Yeah, Chiron is a name that... I don't know why the name Chiron means something to me.
Chiron was the master of the 8th Brotherhood, who everyone believed to be Sevatar. Who I postulated as a counter argument to be Felzarost.
Yeah, I'm thinking, now that you mentioned that and it's jogged my memory on Sevatar, I think that might well be Felzarost. Also, Euphrati Keela, who was apparently last seen being dragged away by soldiers, is involved in this, so it'll be interesting to see what she's been up to, aside from, being a saint.
Yep.
I think that would be more of a full-time gig.
Yeah, and we have someone called a scientician, which they also draw attention to.
Is that like a Scientologist?
I don't know, just a great word, though.
Well, they work for Malcador. Also, we get El Wintor, confidant of the Sigillite. I mean, I know that doesn't mean consort, but it's an interesting choice of words. If like Malcador has like almost like a council that he goes to, like, tell me everything that happened.
It's just
And
therapist.
give advice, I guess. Yeah. Well, yeah.
It's like, hello, Winter. I had to choke Horus like a bitch again today. It's like, oh, Malcolm, we told you not to do this.
Quite so. Is the Thunder Vein Cadre the Sisters of Silence? I don't. Is there a Witch Seeker? So I don't know if they're like a Sister of Silence or something like that.
I think they are Sisters of Silence, yeah. Witchseeker, if I recall, was Sisters of Silence term.
Okay.
Not like the witch hunters, not the Inquisition, none of that.
Well, the Inquisition
They
didn't technically exist yet.
Oh. Gotcha. So I have a random question. I don't know if you guys may have talked about this in prior podcasts, but I'm sure you're familiar with the audio drama of Hell's Reach being made into a video series.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And that just wrapped up, I think, a couple weeks ago now. Did you end up seeing it?
I haven't watched it yet, no.
I've heard amazing things about it, but I haven't actually had a chance to watch it, no.
Oh, okay. I have watched it all, and I'm incredibly impressed with it. However, I have not read Hell's Reach, and so I was just curious what you guys thought of that. But
Yeah, it's interesting because I have read Hell's Reach. It was the first 40k novel I ever read, I think, aside
well, I
from...
hear
like,
it's one of the
maybe
best, too.
Yeah, it's one of AD... I think it's one of... Because we had ADV on the podcast a while ago, and I do think it's one of his best. And it is interesting because part of me wants to see it to see how well they adapt it, and part of me is like, I kind of don't want to touch the book because I know the book so well. And I can still quote that book. Despite the fact I haven't read it in like 6 years, I can still remember various scenes from that book. Like the massive arguments in the docks with the salamanders because the salamanders decide to stand still for some stupid reason. The epic last stand of Grimaldus and Titan kill or the Titan death.
Jeez. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
There are so many epic moments in that book, and kind of almost like my mind's eye of those scenes. I kind of don't want to touch it in some ways.
I haven't read the book, but I've been encouraged to because someone's come up with an idea for a future video based on that book about Grimaldus being a latent psyker. Now, I can't actually confirm or deny that because I've not read the book, but since you have read the book, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that theory.
Did they give any evidence when they mentioned this to you?
No, they just said it's implied in Hell's Reach is a latent psyker. That's all they gave me. I've not read the book, so I can't comment either way.
I'll be honest, I haven't read that book in, like, as I say, about 5 or 6, maybe even 7 years. It's been a long time since I read it. But I don't recall there being anything quite that on the nose, or if there was, I wasn't old enough to recognise it at the time. I
wonder if it's like with the Far Side novel, where he has vague visions of the future, kind of thing.
I mean, he does have... Oh, or does he? Does he?
That's a good question. It doesn't seem like it's addressed specifically in the audiobook version, which I'm sure is obviously truncated.
Yeah, I don't recall him having visions. The only time I sort of remember him having an out-of-body moment was during the final battle, because he doesn't realise quite how far back they've been pushed until he hears the canoness, and he kind of snaps out of it, and then it all goes to hell. But other than that, I don't remember him having any particularly visionary dreams. And to be fair, is having like weird dreams a sort of telltale sign of a psyker, or is that just sort of a thing that happens? Because
if you have a dream that's, you know, a vision of the future, and that vision of the future does come to pass, you could argue it's a sign of being a latent psyker. It's like, hey, you got, the ability of foresight.
I mean, I think he had sort of an idea that he was going to die. Though I don't believe he ever saw himself die. He just sort of thought, I'm going to die here. And then he didn't. So
he's wrong anyway.
So he's kind of wrong anyway, yeah. I think on a second read it might be interesting to see if there's anything now that I'm looking for it. but I don't remember anything. And if the comments have read it more recently, I'm sure they'll chime in with ideas.
Fair enough.
Well, Remleiz, he did just finish it all up, so you could watch it all in one go at this point if you wanted. It is an incredible story.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, hasn't he sort of been... Is hired the right word?
Yeah, he's doing the Angels of Death series, yeah.
Yes, that's it.
Because we had the preview on their YouTube channel, the animated Blood Angels series.
That's the one.
Though I am kind of getting bloody sick of Blood Angels, to be honest. No pun intended, but... I mean, at least it wasn't Ultramarines. That would be even more... Ugh. I mean, I don't want to bash the Ultramarines. I really don't want it, but... You know, I'm sick of Ultramarines. I'm sick of the Blood Angels. You know, I'm starting to get sick of the Space Wolves as well, to be honest.
What would you like to see at this point, then? What would either of you like to see?
I'd like to see, you know, a chapter who hasn't had much done to them more explored more thoroughly, rather. I mean, if you're going for, like, say, a second founding chapter, for instance... I like... Actually, are they a second founding chapter? I think they're a second founding chapter, but the Raptors, I like to see more focus on them, considering they're actually, you know, the most bloody practical of the Space Marines. You know, hey, let's actually use camouflage.
Here's the thing, though. I agree with everything you're saying. The thing is, for people who aren't, like, us, who don't read the lore inside out and backwards...
Oh, no, I understand completely that, you know, they're more, you know... Blood Angels, the Ultramarine Space Wolves, they're more appealing to, you know, for lack of a better term, more casual fans. I don't really want to use that term, but it's probably the best term I can come up with off the top of my head.
Or people who don't read the lore inside out and backwards, because anyone who doesn't own the Space Marine Codex and or has not read a very specific set of books about the Horus Heresy will not have heard of most of the second founding chapters. That's the challenge, because like the Crimson Fists, if they didn't have an index of Astartes, I'd wager there's a fair few people who hadn't heard of them. Even the Crimson Fist.
How about the Iron Hands, considering they've basically been shafted all the time in regards to being explored?
The Iron Hands I'll give you. But then the challenge with the Iron Hands is that they're a lot harder to transfer across to other chapters. So, like, I know the Primaris Lieutenants are usually quite chapter-specific, but the Iron Hands are so unique in their aesthetic that they're kind of... It's harder to replicate them and make them just a bit more generic, and that's probably the other thing why the Ultramarines and the Blood Angels are so easy to do, because they're more generic. Yeah, it's an interesting challenge, and I understand we as people who read the lore a lot would love to see lots of different chapters fleshed out and explored in more detail. I mean, I could come up with a list probably as long as your arm, given enough time. But you've got to consider everybody else. Who,
I get what you mean. It's just... Yeah, I've made my point.
He just doesn't care, Tactica, okay? He just doesn't.
Yes, I got that.
Bit harsh.
It's okay, I said it for you, so that makes it less harsh, right?
Oh dear.
Just because it's harsh didn't mean it was strictly wrong.
I don't know. I don't even know where to start with the books, honestly. Like, whenever I see the Horus Heresy series or any of the stuff, I figured I'll pick Hell's Reach Up because at least I have some passing familiarity with it and people have recommended it. But beyond that, I really don't know where to begin.
Yeah, that's the problem, I think, with particularly the Heresy, is that it's, well, as we said, it's 50-odd books plus audio dramas and novellas now.
I mean, for the Horus Heresy, the best place to start off with is the Istvan 3 trilogy.
Oh yeah, read the first 5 in order, but then what do you read?
No, you don't even need to read the first 5, just go for the first 3, and you'll be fine. Because that basically pretty much gives you like how the Imperium was during the Great Crusade, and basically how it all started going to shit.
Oh, okay.
You know, those 3 books are pretty much the only 3 you really need, you know, to get into the Horus Heresy, to get a rough idea of how it all began.
Okay.
Yeah, and I honestly think Dark Imperium, as much as Remleiz says it's boring, Plague War are worth reading because they bring you up to speed on the modern era better than I think anything else can.
I will say...
Okay. Dark Imperium, and what was the other one?
Sorry, my neck cut out. Can you guys repeat what you said?
Plague War or Plague Wars?
Sorry, is my net playing up? I can't tell.
Fair.
It seems alright.
Because I didn't hear what you guys said. It just went quiet for a long time, so I don't know what was said.
Just like saying that Dark Imperium and Plague War are probably good pickups if you're trying to learn about the modern era, unless Watch of the Throne is a decent pickup.
The problem with Plague War is that it's a shit book. Literally, apart from the very last, chapter where Gilliman's, ripping someone apart, in a verbal chewing out, that book is terrible.
Oh.
It's a terrible book. I'm sorry, Guy Haley. I love your work, but that book was terrible. I'm sorry. What's this? The Demon Engine. Oh, so we got a cat's paw and a moon. Okay.
Just the rumor engine's been going into overdrive this week. It just struck me that I hadn't even mentioned it. So that's the thing that's got this corrupted heavy bolter that looks almost like a bloody cannon. You got and there's another one that looks almost like an eye growing out of a backpack and a maw out of a backpack. That's what it reminds me of. So it might be possessed.
I'm guessing it's new possessed.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Considering that one with the cat's paw looks like it's at the bottom of where a Space Marine boot should be.
Yeah, and whilst the claw is obviously very Slaneshi in design, it would also just as equally apply to possessed.
But going back to the novels, I've always maintained if you just want to start getting into the novels, the best ones to probably start with the first 3 Horus Heresy series of the Horus Heresy series. If you want to get into that, if you want to do more modern 40k, not necessarily M42, but more modern, go for the first 3 Gaunt's Ghost books, or go for the Eisenhorn trilogy.
Oh, okay. Now, I've heard of Gaunt's Ghosts. I'm not sure of the Eisenhorn trilogy.
Yeah. They're based around an Inquisitor. So it follows his adventures. I think he goes auto-hopping and all sorts of stuff killing. And then he gets a sequel trilogy, which is the Ravener trilogy, I believe.
And yes, I know there is a 4th book in the Eisenhorn series, but I'm still calling it the Eisenhorn trilogy because it's 3 books.
It's easier to say.
It's easier to say, yeah.
Yeah. If you're not so into Gaunt's Coast, you could try Caiaphas Cain.
If you like a more humorous side of things, yeah.
Yeah. The only challenge, particularly if you go with Eisenhorn, is you don't... I don't know, I haven't read Eisenhorn myself, but I don't think you do that much in terms of on-the-ground reality stuff. It's a bit more detached and conspiratorial from what I've grasped.
Eisenhorn is basically a noir series.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's very cool, but it doesn't quite give you the same insight into just the basic on-the-ground how things are like.
But at the same time, it's also not completely overwhelming.
True.
It's easier to digest, I feel.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I think they're not connected, but the Space Marine Battles novels that came out a few years ago, they've got Hell's Reach, Damnos, Rin's World, Piscina 4, so you get a lot of it's like a highlight reel of things Space Marines did.
Oh, okay, nice.
So you can sort of pick up, there's a few duds in there, I'm sure, but the Siege of Castellax is set from the perspective of the Iron Warriors, and that's fantastic.
Basically, for the Space Marine Battle series, avoid anything with the Ultramarines in it, because all those books are pretty much terrible, apart from one.
What's the one I read?
Blades of Damocles?
No, it was Orpheus or something like that. It was set in an agri world, and it had plague zombies on it. I can remember the novel, I just can't remember the title of the damn novel. I'm going to go and look it up.
Fair enough.
Space
I also do recommend the Blackstone Fortress novel just because it's so what the fucking out there compared to other 40k stuff. It's just so weird. It's
Blackstone Fortress?
Yeah.
Is that one book or is that a series?
One book.
It's just one.
Oh, okay.
Based on the Warhammer Quest Blackstone Fortress game. It's basically the novelization of the game. And it's batshit insane. It really is. It's great.
All right.
Oh, Plagues of Orath. That's it. Sorry. Plagues of Orath. I like that one.
All right. So, Plagues of Orath, Blackstone Fortress, Eisenhorn Trilogy.
I mean, the whole Space Marine Battle series, like, just to give you all the novel names, you got Rin's World, Hell's Reach, Damnos, The Fang, Cadillus, which is also Basina 4, the Gildar Rift, which is Red Corsairs. You get a Legion of the Damned novel. You get an Iron Hands novel. You get an Iron Warriors novel. You get a novel from the Black Dragons, who basically have, like, Wolverine bone claws coming out of their
They're Baraka blades,
hands.
get it right.
Sorry. You got Flesh of Cretaceous, which is about the flesh terrors. Yeah, I nearly said flesh eaters. That's wrong. Yeah, there's a lot in that series that I can recommend. And Mortarian's Heart, if you want to see Caldor Drago go to Ultimate Meme.
Oh god, wasn't that where he basically took a chainsaw and carved Mortarian's true name into his heart or something?
Something like that. You've also got Tyrants of the Hollow World, so more Huron Blackheart. The World Engine, so you get to read about the Astral Knights being badasses. You've got the Damocles novels, which is the Damocles Gulf Crusade. Calgar's One Man Siege.
I will say Tyrant of the Hollow World is worth reading just for the fact that Huron Blackheart actually has giant pirate ships with tank treads.
Ooh.
That alone makes it worthwhile.
Does sound pretty cool. I'll read anything about Titans as well.
Guy Thought put one out called Warlord, I think.
Imperator. He did Imperator. Warlord was... I think Warlord was David Annandale, I think.
Might have been. Yeah, possibly.
But there's also Titan Death, which is a Horus Heresy book, but it's all about Titans.
Oh.
Like, it's literally just about huge Titan versus Titan fights.
See, that's more my speed. I was a huge fan of BattleBots growing up, you know.
Fair enough.
That reminds me,
Right.
I haven't watched Robot Wars in ages.
There hasn't been a Robot Wars in ages.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah.
There was a reboot with Dara O'Brien, wasn't there?
It's been like 3 years.
Has it been 3 years already?
Well, I don't know if it's been 3, but it's been a couple of years, I'm sure. Or I feel like it has.
I still remember the good old days with Jeremy Clarkson.
The ones I remember was the guy
Craig
who played
Charles.
Dwarf. Craig Charles, that's it.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been banging on for nearly over an hour. We're over an hour. We haven't even got to questions.
Oh, should I bring them up then?
Sorry.
It's no problem. I always like rambling on for ages. It's just I know that people like getting their questions answered, and some people don't get them answered every time. So just let's try and get through a few of them before we run out of time.
Okay. Question, will either of us be at Adepticon 2019?
Unlikely, but I make very, very, very unlikely in my world. Actually, is Adepticon the one in America, or is that the one at Warhammer World?
It's in America. It's in Chicago.
Okay, I'm not going. Sorry, I'm getting mixed up with Warhammer Fest. That's in May.
Ah, yes. This one's in March.
Will you be going?
So I will be there, actually, yeah. So
I sadly won't be.
Yeah, some
it's
of us have
probably a
these
little
things-
more of a trip for you.
Just
Yeah,
that.
I have this thing called a degree that I have to finish.
Education. What matters more to you, really?
And I still
Education,
technically have
that's totally
spinal
fine.
issues to finish sorting out.
Have either of you ever been to Adepticon?
No.
I've been to America once, and that was on holiday with my family, so no.
Ah, fair enough. If you
should try
guys
and
do
go to
come
Warhammer
to
Fest
America
one year.
for one wargaming convention, Adepticon is probably the one to do it at. It's the largest, and it's a really incredible event.
Yeah, that's true. I think I might... I don't know if I'll be able to, but I might try and make Warhammer Fest one year, because that's a bit more reasonable, getting to Nottingham as opposed to the other side of the Atlantic.
Yeah, I won't be at that one.
Yeah, it's in early May, I think. They announced the dates. Actually, it's in Coventry this year, not even in Nottingham, it's in bloody Coventry.
I still remember when I went to Games Day. I think that was basically when before Warhammer Fest.
Yeah,
It was
Games
a
Day was
thing.
like back in the first decade of the century.
This is back in 1996 I went.
Well, Games Day was running, I think, until like 2012 or 13.
No, this is long before then. Games Day and the Golden Demon, 1996. Basically where like they previewed like Gorka Morka back then. And they had a big display of Battle of Big Tooth River.
Yes, I think you've mentioned that before.
I think I still have the T-shirt from that somewhere.
Probably.
Though it no longer fits me because I've grown a bit too tall for that now. But it had the T-shirt was also had like 3 orcs on the front. It was awesome. Anyway, next question: who would win in hand-to-hand combat, Lorgar or Magnus?
Depends if Lorgar's powered up for a start, and the answer is still Magnus. In my opinion.
I mean, you can just stab him with his nipples.
I assume you're not talking about Magnus stabbing with nipples.
Yeah, Magnus's horn nipples, yeah.
Oh. It's an interesting fighting style.
I mean, I was just going to go with...
Beware the nipple tickle!
Oh, jeez.
There it is! There's the head desk.
I knew you were trying to bait me into it. I was trying not to, but fine. But yeah, Magnus would win because biomancy. There.
What would happen if Leman Russ returns with Isha?
Much nonsense ensues because, let's be honest, how the hell did that happen?
She's the tree of life Russ went to find.
So if he actually succeeded in his mission is what the question is? Like if he came back with her?
It requires Leman Russ being competent enough to succeed in his mission, for one.
And
attack
the Garden of Nurgle, conquer Nurgle's manse, and steal a goddess from under Nurgle's nose.
I mean, if Caldor Drager could do it to rescue Shyla from Nurgle's manse.
So you're saying it's possible?
With enough plot... Hopefully he's gone full Wolfen at this point. He's not smart enough.
With enough plot armor, anything is possible.
Annoyingly, yes.
Question for me: how was my vacation? It would have been better if I wasn't ill.
You should not do that next time, okay, Remleiz?
I know I shouldn't, but I already had the holiday booked and I started getting ill just before it. And I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. Will the Dark Mechanicum ever get a dedicated codex?
For 40k, they're going to need some serious expansion before they do. 30k, they've just got one. They've just got an army list now. It's coming in book 9, I believe, or it's in book 8, I forget which. But for 40k, I think it'll be a long time before they do. And I think they should, but I don't know if they ever will.
What would have happened in the Horus Heresy if Lorgar got stepped on a Titan and died?
Not that much would have changed, to be honest, because once the Heresy got going, it was kind of just going.
I mean, he wouldn't have attempted a coup against Horus, for one. He wouldn't have made Fulgrim his bitch.
Hang on, when did Lorgar attempt a coup d'etat?
Enslaved Darkness, when Horus was still technically dying.
Right.
And then Lorgar was like, yeah, he may have the blessing of the god, but he doesn't want to conquer for the gods. He wants to do it for himself. I want to do it for the gods. Therefore, I should be in charge. And then Horus beats the ever-loving piss out of him and says, don't do it again. Though it is quite funny the fact that Lorgar beat Fulgrim in a fight. Demon Fulgrim in a fight.
Because of course he did. Because Lorgar has more plot armor than anyone else.
Plus, he just shouted Fulgrim's name multiple times.
Oh, so it's plot armor and cheating. Got it.
Yeah. And Fulgrim's like, I don't want to go back to the material realm. I'm bored of it. I'm happy here on my happy little pleasure planet. And Lorgar's like, tough. You gotta do some work for once, you lazy git.
That's flipping rich.
Well, considering that after Fulgrim became a demon, he basically fucked off.
And since the end of the heresy, Lorgar's done naff all.
He's been praying. That's a lot of work for a religious man.
I mean, to be fair, aside from cameos and not doing that much, does Lorgar have anything major that he actually does in the heresy after it gets going? Like, once, apart from the ascension of Angron, which wouldn't have happened, well, in the same way, I can't think of anything else that Lorgar does.
Well, he wouldn't have had the shit kicked out of him by a flock of birds.
Flock
which is
of
actually
birds?
Korax.
Yeah,
Oh.
Corvus Corax turned into a flock of birds and beat the shit out of him. It's kind of...
Don't ask.
I mean, it's not as weird as Ferrus Manus catching a las cannon bolt, and crushing it, but... Which actually did happen as well.
Stop it.
I love your guys' remembering of certain moments in the books to someone outside of it just going,
Oh, Remleiz never stops bringing up the las cannon thing because it hurts my...
It's because it's
Oh.
hilarious. It's hilarious that someone manages to catch a beam of light and crushes it.
It's bad science. It's horrible
It's
science.
magic. It's Necron tier techno science. I'm covering his hands.
fiction.
It's absolute BS, is what it is.
It's
Okay, well, that may be.
imagination. It's the power of the imagination.
I have quite a good imagination when it comes to this hobby, but there are some things when it does just ridiculous science of catching a light. No, move on before I get angry.
Next question.
When will we get the TTS group on for the food colouring drinking game?
Oh God, no.
Do you want to explain the entire concept behind that to Miranda? To bring up to speed?
So...
I was just going to go with it, but yeah, please.
Yeah. Right. As far as I recall, a few episodes ago, we had Thunder Psyker, who was then gate crashed by Dr. White, on as guests on the podcast. And for some reason, there was a wager involving food colouring and drinking of food colouring, and White has since honoured that wager, but yeah, I don't even remember.
Basically, Dr. White showed up drunk and said that he asked Thunder why he had a bottle of food colouring in his room, and then he said, hey, if 10 people retweet you on Twitter, I'll drink this entire bottle of food colouring, and he did, because Dr. White is weird.
Oh. That must have been interesting a few hours later.
Probably.
I mean, we got it on video, so...
Well, you do.
I know.
I don't want anything to do with it.
It was hilarious, and you know it.
At the time, the wager and the whole gate crashing, that was hilarious because it was just the best piece of comedic timing this side of the Imperium.
I also want to reiterate, I never forced him to do it. He insisted. I never forced him. He insisted. Just want to get out of there.
For the record.
Right, anyway. Why is the Gene Stealer Colt Ridge Rider better designed as an armoured vehicle than Imperial Guard vehicles?
Because the Imperial Guard are incompetent.
Oh, poor Imperial Guard.
Is it possible for Ivrain and Rabute Gilliman to engage in a political marriage? I mean, well, Fulgrim had multiple wives over the course of his life.
I mean, the annoying part is I have to say never, even though I really think it's a silly point and I don't think they'll ever do it.
I mean, at least this question is phrased as a political marriage rather than just being married in general. A political marriage makes more sense.
Yeah, it's not just shipping for shipping's sake.
Do you think Battlefleet Gothic will return to tabletop?
I mean, I hope so. And with all the games they put out these days, you'd expect that maybe one day it will. Maybe when Necromunda runs out of support or Titanicus runs out of support. But I don't know, honestly. I'd like to see it, but I can't be sure.
Probably be really cool.
I can't imagine them doing it while the video games are still very hot, though, because people might be more interested in just going to the video game rather than the tabletop version.
Yeah, it's kind of like Blood Bowl. It's like, you could play tabletop Blood Bowl, or you could play video game Blood Bowl.
Yeah.
Where you don't have to paint anything, or do any manual work.
And it's cheaper.
And it's also cheaper. And you don't need friends. And so on.
That last comment was very depressing. You don't need friends.
Wow.
Yeah, I know that's sort of playing into the stereotype, but hey.
Sitting there scratching your neck beard and eating your Cheetos. cuddling your waifu pillow, that kind of thing.
Hey now, I've seen plenty of social wargamers. There was a very lively game of Blood Bowl at Valhalla this last year, of drunken Blood Bowl, with a whole crowd cheering them on, so it happens.
Oh yeah, we know it happens. It's just we're just jokingly stereotyping.
No, I know.
I just remembered something that was featured in a White Dwarf from like 1997. Bear with me on this. So
where the hell do you keep all this pointless trivia?
In my brain. Where do you think? But basically,
how the fuck do you have all the space? Anyway,
there was basically, quote, live action Blood Bowl, which was basically just American football, but everyone was dressed up as Blood Bowl team members.
Oh my.
Like, you had a team dressed up as orcs and a team dressed up as, like, the Empire, just playing American football. I want to see that now.
So are they trying to imply that American football is as violent as Blood Bowl, or...?
Well, it's called the game of fantasy football, so I assume it's American football, considering otherwise we'd just call it rugby.
Right, although... I don't know.
I mean, it's a rule set based on hand egg, just with ultra-violence.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's all I know Blood Bowl for, is just you kind of... I don't know if you kill the opponent necessarily, you injure them pretty bad.
You can.
Yeah, okay. So...
Oh, I know in the video game you certainly can.
It's funny with the ogre players when you can just, like, eat other players sometimes.
Oh.
At least you couldn't want one of the older versions of the tabletop game.
I don't think they had that on the live action version. I'm fairly certain.
No. That does remind me something from, I think it's the second edition of Blood Bowl in the rulebook, where they described about a halfling team versus a giants team. And, like, the halflings died trying to make it to the stadium because the steps were so big.
Oh.
I shouldn't laugh, but...
I mean, it's a kind of an unfair advantage, giants versus halflings.
I mean, yes, but, I mean, Rob Burrow has proved that you don't need to be big to be good at that sort of a game.
No, but if it's like, a 12-a-side game, you've got 12 halflings versus 12 giants on a giant-sized pitch with a giant-sized ball.
Yeah, that's just a mess. What else we got?
Since we know that Teclis is the biggest dick in AOS at the moment, who is the biggest Boy Scout?
Yep. I don't know what that actually means in terms of, like...
Basically, who is Captain America of AOS, essentially?
Sigmar.
Fair enough.
Like, all the other deities are just very much idiots, but also assholes. Sigmar is an authoritarian, totalitarian mini-tyrant, but at the very least, the reason he's a tyrant is because he is the god of order, and he's trying to reclaim the realms for the forces of order and so on and so forth. So, nearest as you probably get in terms of the gods is Sigmar, also because he's the easiest to meme about. But, yeah, none of the others even get close.
Do you find it at all ironic that the Tau would make for a fluffier Earth Defense Force than the Imperial Guard?
Fluffier?
Law-friendly.
Like they would make more sense there?
Apparently.
I mean...
I
mean, the day we invent pulse rifles and grav tanks, then I'll believe it.
We have the grav tanks, thank you. The custodians have the grav rhinos.
I more meant Earth Defense Force. They're not talking about terror. They're talking about Earth.
My bad.
As in
I
us.
mean, if you're going to be realistic, given the recent events, we're obviously going to have Space Marines as Earth's defense. It's a real force.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah. No one else. It's amazing.
What are the odds of Ragnar Blackmane getting a Primaris model or just a new model to counter the obvious incoming Chaos release on Vigilus?
Well, the incoming Chaos release on Vigilus is Shadow Spear, and we didn't get a new Ragnar at the time. I mean, he could, but he's not been confirmed as being there, so we'll see if he turns up in the next book, I suppose. That's all I can really say.
What relation do Castellan robots have to the Men of Iron? Certain Castellans are said to arrive on the battlefield of their own accord, allow the tech priest to command them, then leave on their own accord. Could the Castellans be Men of Iron hiding as mindless automatons to prevent their destruction?
I mean, we've seen robots hiding, Men of Iron hiding as robots. See the Blackstone Fortress game. But Castellans? I think you probably know better than I would about the relation between the two.
Considering that in, if it's the same Castellan I'm thinking of, in the Man of Iron short story, they have, like, control wafer card things to be installed into them.
Yes, they do. Whereas
Men of Iron don't. So, I mean, it's not impossible for a Man of Iron to pose as a Castellan per se, if they, modelled their chassis to look more like one.
Yeah, and as long as they're willing to always do what they're told by a datasmith, because without a datasmith, they can't change their programming. So, once a wafer has been inserted by a datasmith, if the datasmith then dies, until they can change that wafer out, they're going to be stuck in that sort of battle mode. So the Men of Iron would have to keep up the charade very convincingly. I mean, it could be done, but...
Since we know that the Secretrix Maledictum is creating time anomalies as well within warp travel, is there a possibility that we get some Primarch resurrected in a baby form from the past as a pod falling against their planets like Ferris, Manus, or Horus?
No,
I don't think so, not without creating a time paradox.
Yeah, that's the sort of problem, is like you run into, one, paradox, and two, imagine how much people would flip out. It's like, hang on, we have a baby Primarch. What? It would just, I get the feeling it just would be really too difficult to write in any convincing way. Fun thought experiment, but not something I think they'd write.
What is the biggest battle with more than one named character that is complete, preferably that doesn't include the Imperium? I can't think of one that doesn't include the Imperium, but the biggest battle with the most named characters that I can think of, aside from the Horus Heresy, would be Second War for Armageddon, or Third War for Armageddon even. Basically Armageddon.
Yeah, you've got the Damocles Gulf, which also has a few heavy hitters. So Shrike, Khan, Farsight, Shadow Sun, Aunvar, Dark Strider, I think, might be the only ones that I can think of. Outside of that, you could have... no, there's only one on Octarius. That's just Gazkul.
Whereas Armageddon 3, you got Gazgul, Yarick, Dante...
Dante wasn't at 3, he was at 2.
He was at 2, sorry.
Tycho was
at
3.
He was at 3, wasn't he? Because didn't he vote for Yarick to be in overall command at that point?
I thought Dante wasn't at 3. Tycho was at 3. But I thought
they both were at 3. I thought they were both at 3, and that was when Tycho fell to the Black Rage.
Tycho definitely went Black Rage at 3. But I feel like Dante was just at 2 and then sent forces to assist at 3. Let me double check my Dante lore video. Yeah, I don't have a... Well, when I did my video on Dante, I didn't make reference to it. That's not to say he wasn't there, but I didn't find any information to suggest he was.
Fair enough. Alright, next question. Are there such things as demons of the machine god?
Well, that's an interesting question.
I mean, machine spirits? Sort of.
Would they be demons, though?
not in the strictest sense, but then is the machine god a warp entity either?
Like, is it a real god, or is it itself a demon?
Yeah, is it even
or
a
is
warp
it
entity?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Demons of the Emperors are long been a thing with the Legion. Well, long been a suspected thing with the Legion of the Damned, Living Saints, Sanguine Orb, so on, so on, so on. But
Right.
we've never had any confirmation of what the machine god is. It's probably the nearest thing to an actual god as you or I would understand it, because it doesn't have a manifestation in the warp that we know of. Because it is possibly also a Catan. We don't know. So machine spirits are probably the nearest thing I can think of, but they probably don't count.
Excuse me. Do you think the Dark Angels are being ruined lore-wise by just the Hunt for the Fallen stories?
Lost
I mean,
again.
Sorry. Do you think the Dark Angels are being ruined lore-wise by just Hunt for the Fallen stories? I mean, it would be nice for the Dark Angels to do something else other than Hunt for the Fallen for once.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, they have been kind of pigeonholed into this is their thing, this is what they do, so they just do it. But it would be nice to have a few more stories like, say, the Purging of Cadillus at Bethesda 4, where they were just there, had nothing to do with the Fallen. It was just, that was their world, they went and protected it. As for if they're being ruined, I think ruined is too strong of a word, but they are kind of being boxed into a corner, possibly.
What do you think about abhuman Astartes, or more specifically, the absence of them? Are they none because culturally they're considered subhuman, or is there an in-universe scientific reason for it? It's because they're not genetically pure enough, essentially.
Yeah. Basically, yes. Though, it's interesting, because there's some people who say that House Goliath should be classed as abhumans, but Necromundans can also become Space Marines.
Well, technically, it's not all House Goliath, it's just certain parts of House Goliath, like the ones working in the smelters.
True.
So, it's not really the entirety of House Goliath, it's just that one group that's been pumped full of fucking drugs.
Fair enough.
Insert Scott Steiner steroid joke here. A member of House Goliath goes, "Listen to me, where you going? War of House Goliath, you got a 33 and a third chance of winning, but I got a 66 and 230% chance of winning, so I'm doing him an egg. Get my bags," kind of thing.
Oh my gosh.
Basically, if you watched any Scott Steiner promo, yeah, that'll make a lot of sense to you.
Fair enough.
No.
Because Scott Steiner is awesome. But he's also very scary and pumped full of chemicals. Allegedly.
Oh.
I did say allegedly, so it's not slander or libel, whichever one it is. Right. Do you think there will be any demons of the Great Rift similar to Samus of the Prince? Similar to Samus being the Prince of the Ruin Storm?
I'd like to see it. I don't know if we will, but I'd like to see it.
Can a corrupted Imperial Navy commander Exterminatus Terra?
It can try. It will fail, but it can try.
How much has the Alpha Legion infiltrated other chapters or legions, and what repercussions can such an infiltration have on the Imperium? Well, considering they actually activated a bunch of sleeper agents within the Emperor's Swords chapter, which ended up seeing the chapter completely destroyed and the homeworld devastated, there's no telling with the Alpha Legion, let's be bloody honest. They're everywhere.
Yeah, they've got many fingers in many pies, and if they decided to pull them out all at once, you'd have trouble.
Many fingers and many pies, and many heads being shoved into the High Lords of Terror's fridge. Which is canon, by the way. Do you not remember that?
Refrigerators?
Do you not remember that, Michael? There was a bit about where the High Lords of Terror find out that Alfarius is somewhere, and they send about 10 Vindicari assassins after him, and about a week later, all 10 Vindicari assassins' head are found stuffed into their fridges.
Nope, that one got straight past me. I'll be honest. I mean, it's impressive, but it went straight over my head. I missed that one, I'm afraid.
It's kind of funny, though. It's like, hey, we'll send these assassins after Alfaris, and it turns out, hey, Alfaris assassinated the assassins and shoved their heads in your fridge.
Also, there was a Space Marine who was as good a shot as a Vindicator. I still find that weird.
I mean, if it actually was Alfarius or Omicron, whatever, I mean, if it's a Primarch...
I mean, it's Exodus, so who knows?
It turns out the assassins were all Alfarius themselves.
Of course.
Are there cases of Terminators wielding more standard Astarte-sized weapons? Yes. Epimetheus was described as wielding a bolt pistol despite being a Terminator.
Seems like a waste.
I know. You'd think it's like, if you're going to be a Terminator and a Grey Knight Terminator, just go for the wrist-mounted Stormbolter.
Well, yeah, it's like, what are you trying to say with that?
You don't even get the bolter drill bonus. Sorry.
Maybe he's a sensitive New Age man who doesn't need to overcompensate with the size of his gun. I don't know.
Yeah, but in the 41st millennium, when everything's trying to kill you and seems bizarrely immune to, lasers and weapons and flames, I probably want the biggest gun.
Yeah. I mean, even the monkey that was nearby was smart enough to rebuild, a shadow sword.
Yeah, there you go. See? He's a survivor.
Yeah. I mean, that's a Jacaro. Well, they're Jacaro.
They're still monkeys.
I know.
And they're adorable.
Oh, actually, did you see the little, short video that was done for Warhammer Adventures?
I did, yeah. Had, the Jacaro basically showing up the little tech priest kid going, I can make better shit than you.
Yeah, they don't outright call it a Jacaro in the little blurb, but yeah, it's just yeah, that's a Jacaro.
That's awesome.
I should call him Zeus. I bet none of you got that reference. Dr. Zeus?
Nope.
The orangutan from Planet of the Apes? No?
If it's I don't remember that from the remakes.
Okay, do you not even remember that episode of The Simpsons with the Planet of the Apes musical? The Dr. Zeus?
Yeah.
Remember that at least.
Simpsons.
God, you're such a child. You're so young.
I know.
God. Right, is it possible that the animal spirits on Ferris who the Space Wolves get their psychic abilities from are really chaotic in nature?
Didn't they, outright confirm that?
I think they did.
Almost.
I think they pretty much did, yeah.
Wolfsbane, or Wolfspear, or whatever the one where Russ stabs Horus is.
Wolfsbane, yeah.
That's the one. Yeah, I feel like they all but confirm that they're warp entities in that book.
Where they literally just ripped off the Norse mythology of Thor's trials for Lehman Russ. So I was just reading it, I was like, hang on a bloody minute. I know this.
Yeah, this is a reference. Do you get it? Here, do you want some more blatant symbolism? Do you get it? And so on.
Okay, if Ferris Manus returns, could he be so powerful that he could destroy warp energy with his bare hands? No, but he can catch and destroy las cannons.
Next question.
Would Perturabo be a better person if the Emperor held him in garrison duty? As in being chosen over Dawn to fortify the living hell out of the Imperial Palace.
I mean, probably, because the whole thing with Perturabo, before the genocide of Olympia, of course, was that he just kind of felt underappreciated, and that was his talents were being wasted on this boring, repetitive siege warfare that was having massive attrition on the Legion, and so on and so on.
But then again, if you stick him on garrison duty, it's like, hey, we don't actually have faith enough in your abilities to actually go out and fight. You're going to be sitting here in the back.
Yeah, but then he also got super jealous of Dawn being allowed to go and sit in the back. So it's yeah, he probably wouldn't appreciate what it could mean, but then he got jealous of the person who was given that job, so...
Either way, he would have moaned about it.
Probably, yes.
Yeah, it sounds more like a character flaw than anything else.
Yeah. When it comes to Pert, yeah.
But we can still respect him for, eating an entire Quetzalcoatl in one night. Back in his,
As you do.
back in his Conan the Barbarian days. Before he went out and punched a Hydra.
These sound like fun
Yes, you do.
stories.
It was from this Sons of the Emperor anthology that was only available at Black Library events. It was awesome. Just the fact that it's like, hey, can you go and punch this Hydra? I was like, okay, punch. He's like, thank you, have some cloves. Do you just head disc again?
No?
Oh, okay. I just heard the banging flow over your head. Okay,
This time.
Eldrad Ulthran versus Araman. Who would win? I'm going to have to go for Eldrad, just because of the fact, he killed a Slan.
I mean, Eldrad's definitely the favourite, but Ahriman could also pull some absolute nonsense. But I'm with you on Eldrad.
I mean, if you're going to kill, the godlike psychic power space frogs, you're going to have to be pretty, potent. Okay, and considering the time, how many more questions can we get through?
Let's see. Maybe... Actually, it's only been about an hour and 50, so we've got a bit more time.
Okay. What would happen if orcs found an STC?
Depends if they knew what an STC was for a start.
I'd say it depends more on if a mech boy got a hold of it or not.
Also that, because it would just depend either on it gets smashed, it gets cannibalized, or it gets bastardized into something else entirely.
Probably the latter.
Almost certainly the latter if there's a mech boy around. If there isn't, it gets smashed.
Fair enough. That's when they loot it, right?
Yeah.
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 Why don't the Eldari find and use Necron pylons, settle near it, and repopulate?
Psychic.
Yeah.
It's a psychic suppressant.
It will cause them a lot of discomfort.
Yeah. So, to understand why, blanks, Sister of Silence. Standing around a Sister of Silence is uncomfortable if you're not psychic, and downright horrifying if you are. So amplify that up in terms of the uncomfortableness by about a factor of a bajillion, because it's a Necron pylon built by actual people who hate Psykers. And then also amplify the psychic effects up by a lot, because it's Eldari instead of humans, and you start to understand that being anywhere near a pylon if you're an Eldari is an absolute nightmare.
Now, Drukhari, on the other hand,
whose psychic powers have long since atrophied, but who don't spend any time in the material realm and would get incredibly bored incredibly quickly.
Yeah. Essentially, the Drukhari is the only one who even has a chance, but it's not going to even bloody happen.
Yeah, because they get bored.
Exactly.
I do find it funny that the single greatest threat to Comorra is boredom, pretty much.
You think it's all populated by teenagers or something? I'm just showing my...
Slightly murderous ones.
I'm just showing my age now, aren't I?
Yeah, I was a teenager.
So you damn kids, get out of my material realm! Sorry.
Oh, dear.
Okay, one for you, Michael. What's life like in the Tau Empire and the Farsight Enclaves?
We have no idea, and I really want to find out. Basically, it seems to be, if you stay in your lane, you're fine. So, don't be doing things the Ethereals don't tell you to do. Do your job, don't talk about Farsight, and generally you'll be fine. In terms of standard of living, we have no idea. As for the Enclaves, generally they're quite traditionalist, because Farsight's a Firecast, like, quite diehard traditionalist, with the exception of Ovesa because rules. So probably quite similar, just without ethereal oppression. So again, stay in your lane, you'll be fine, but you've probably got a bit more freedom of expression in the Enclaves. But we don't have any lore on the matter, and I really want a book, but I understand that, I remember we talked about this with one author or another on a previous podcast, it's just not almost financially viable for an author to write that sort of a novel as much as we'd like to see it.
Oh. Just not anybody cares enough about the Farsight Enclave?
More accurately, nobody cares about Xenos.
Oh.
It's something that writing a novel about Space Marines or the Imperial Guard is generally going to sell quite well. Most Xenos novels, by comparison, don't. Or Xenos-focused novels, I should say. Not Xenos antagonists, Xenos protagonist novels.
Right. Because I imagine they make good bad guys.
Yeah, they're very good bad guys, but as much as we find them fascinating, it's kind of like that whole why they don't use obscure chapters for box games argument. It's like, unless people already know about them, they might not really think to read all that hard, because a lot of people probably look at Tau and go, oh, space communists with anime mechs. Cool. Or whatever, and they don't really read into them the same way and don't start to do the speculation and the theorizing and the headcanoning and all the stuff that we do sort of day to day. So they don't have the same interest as we do. Like Crisis of Faith, that novel, fascinating. Utterly fascinating.
I actually read that one.
Yeah, and War of Secrets, though that's mainly focused on the Dark Angels, all the Tau segments in that book, utterly fascinating. But people wouldn't buy it if it was, hey, here's the Tau 4th Sphere expansion as told by the Tau. No, it's like, here's the Dark Angels fighting the Tau with some Tau backstory.
I see. They're just less relatable, basically.
Partly, and also they're not the poster boys.
Well, I bet they feed into one another, though. Because, I mean, people like to imagine
yeah.
themselves being Space Marines, even though they're not really human. They can still behave in a human-ish way. Whereas I don't think you get that sense from Tau, or if you were to write, I don't know, what would you even talk about if you were following, like, Gene Stealers?
I mean, the Gene Stealer cults themselves, I think, I haven't read their new Codex, so I don't know quite what direction they've taken the cults in. But the Gene Stealer cults, lore-wise, could be really interesting, because obviously it's almost a twisted parody of the Imperium, where you have this cult-like hierarchical system, but instead of the planetary governor and the emperor being at the top, you've got a patriarch. You have a magus who speaks on behalf of them and controls everything subtly, and they have to live their lives in society blending in, trying to comply with imperial law, whilst also plotting its downfall, and it becomes really kind of almost like a spy novel if you wanted it to.
And yet we still have more novels focused on Gene Stealer cults than we do orcs. As in from their perspective. Because we literally have like one novella and a couple of audio dramas, and that's it for the orcs.
The orcs make great video game characters to follow, though.
I wish they actually released the Gorka Morka video game back in the day. Because they planned to release it for the Dreamcast, and then it got cancelled.
Oh, poor Dreamcast. It's so underrated.
I love my Dreamcast. I still need to get it fixed, though.
Oh, yeah.
It's got a disk drive there. Like, if you close the disk drive all the way, it won't run. But if you have it slightly open, it will run. But you can't have it slightly open because you always have to stand there with your hand slightly on it. A bit awkward to use a controller with one hand.
The longer you wait, it's only going to get harder to find someone who can do it.
True. Oh, well. And given the time, I think that's about it for the questions, Michael.
Okay. So are there any other remarks, comments, questions, things to add before we close off?
All I've got to say is, since I'm expecting the Silence of the Emperor anthology to arrive, hopefully tomorrow at time of recording, I will let you know if there's any more interesting tidbits.
Yeah, I look forward to discussing those next
time.
Because
one of the stories features the Alpha Legion's first encounter with the Dark Angels during the Rangdan Xenocides.
Rangdan Xenocide always equals fun.
Yes, and the first Documented appearance of the Alpha Legion.
Yeah. So I think we'll have a lot of discussion about that next time if you get time to read them.
Yes.
Then again, the 17 novels that short, you'll probably be onto them in a day or two.
Exactly.
Anything from you, Miranda?
No, thank you guys for having me on. It's always I'm obviously the ignorant one in this room whenever it comes to all the 40k stuff, but it is interesting to hear about it, and I appreciate the book recommendations, so maybe next go around I will have some more knowledge on that.
Yeah, no problem. It's always good to get another voice in the room, and yeah, thank you very much for joining us, because I don't quite know how much notice you had. So, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for this episode of Adeptus Podcastus. If you have any questions for us, do leave them in the comments below with the word question. We don't need to announce the guest for next time if there is one, because it's not Black Library, so that's all fine. So, yeah, that will be all. So, for now, this has been Tactica Imperialis.
This has been Remleiz from 40k Theories.
And this has been Miranda with WarGamerGirl.
And we'll see you all again. Bye for now.